Hello and welcome back to our show. We have 10 days, 9 hours, 1 minute, and 3 seconds left for the next election that will determine our future. And as usual, we are bringing candidates that care and they have issues that matters, and we want them to be able to share that with you and give you the chance to talk to them, ask question or comment. Today I am honored to have Amanda with me. Amanda is running for the 17th district. She is an amazing, amazing candidate. I've been following her for a while, and I truly hope you guys all listen to her and do your part. And without further ado, Amanda, hello and welcome to the show. And thank you for giving us the time. Can you please introduce yourself and tell our listeners who you are?
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me and putting this platform together for candidates like myself to be able to talk to our potential constituents and just voters around the state about why state elections are so important. I am Amanda Cappelletti. I'm the Democratic nominee for State Senate in District 17. And District 17 is in Delaware and Montgomery counties. It's Radnor and Haverford Township, Lower Marion and Narberth, Upper Marion, West Conshohocken, Bridgeport, Plymouth Meeting, East Narton, Norristown, and Whitpain. So it's largely in Montgomery County, but we have that little bit down there in Delaware County, which is a pretty awesome area too. I'm an attorney with my master's of public health. I serve as the vice chair of the East Narton Board of Supervisors, and I've worked in Harrisburg. I've worked with Representative Donna Bullock, who is an amazing representative out of the 195th District in Philadelphia. I've worked with the ACLU of Pennsylvania. I was a William Penn Fellow through the Governor's Office, and most recently I was the Director of Policy for Planned Parenthood. I decided to run because I think it's incredibly important that as an advocate, I take my voice to the Capitol building. And it can be really hard from the outside in to make change and get things passed that are really important to the everyday person. We don't have enough legislators who are developing people-centered policies and pushing for people-centered legislation that really take the everyday person into consideration. You know, right now we're seeing we have a legislature that is focused on challenging the governor at every turn, as opposed to spending the millions of dollars in federal money that we have, federal aid that we have, that's supposed to go support small businesses and communities. They're not interested in putting that money out there. They're too busy fighting the governor tooth and nail about anything he does to address the pandemic or to help with our voting situation and make sure that everybody's able to vote. And it's just incredibly difficult and frustrating as somebody who believes in the power of the people and that policy can really change our lives. One day I was walking home from Planned Parenthood to the train station, and I got a phone call asking me if I would run. And to be honest, I was shocked. I didn't really think of myself in that way. And I reached out to my husband, and I'm very blessed that he was, his response initially, right off the bat, was, "Hey, when do I get to call you Senator?" And I was just so thrilled that he was that supportive. And then I took the time to reach out to one of my mentors from law school. And, you know, if you've ever heard me speak, you know, I say this every time I have the opportunity because it's so important that you know this. It takes asking a woman 7 to 9 times more than a man before she says yes to running for office. And my professor from law school reminded me of that. And in that exact moment, I was like, okay, well, we're going to do this. We'll put my best foot forward and see what happens. My husband supports it. And, you know, we did everything we could. And here we are today as the Democratic nominee for this seat. And I'm very, you know, grateful that I took this leap of faith to do this. And I really, truly hope that I can have the honor and opportunity to serve my community and really help to push important policies to, you know, better our communities.
And that's you know, it's funny to mention that it takes, how long does it take? But it takes, like you said, it takes at least 7 times because there is a lot to consider. And you have an amazing support. Your husband is supporting you, and you have amazing group of campaign managers that are running your campaign, as well as support from your district. And how, just let's start by your work. You just mentioned something about Planned Parenthood, and you mentioned you have an impressive history, and educational history, and that will come handy, not just for this, running for the state senate, but I'm sure you are going to be helping many people out there who are is going to look at you as a role model. So many young women out there who are going to look at you and see themselves and say, I can do this. And that's what is refreshing to me this year, to see so many amazing, strong women running. How is how the struggle, not just in your area, but with anybody that you talk to, when it comes to bringing an abortion subject or topic. Let's just start by that. A lot of people think pro-choice is being anti-life, or pro-choice is not, like, you have to be someone who's supporting and telling people you get abortion, it's just so stupid to try to explain that to others, but help us out.
Yeah, so when we talk about pro-choice, that's really what it is. It's about providing a platform for individuals who are capable of becoming pregnant to make decisions about when they want to start a family, or if they even want to start a family, and being able to provide that platform and allowing them to have that choice and that decision as to what their family looks like if they have a family. And what the health and safety of it is for them as well, because that's another really big consideration that oftentimes isn't discussed when we're having the abortion discussion. It's about choice. If you want a child and you want to carry a pregnancy to term, then we want to provide the resources to help you do that. If you're not ready to be a parent and something happened and you choose an abortion, then let's give you the resources to be able to support you in that choice, and make sure you also know what all your contraceptive choices are moving forward to try and help you be able to plan out if and when you do start a family and that happens. It's just an issue that I know it's very touchy, but I'm never going to back down from it. I'm never going to back down from the fact that you can say that you don't know anybody that's had an abortion, you don't know anybody that where an unplanned pregnancy has happened, and that's just simply not true. We just don't talk about it. And we need to have more broad discussions about pregnancy in general and what that looks like and what that means for people in our society. Because, we saw with Chrissy Teigen, she's being attacked after facing such an awful and gut-wrenching moment in their life, and she's attacked for however she handles it. And that's a problem. We need to allow people to have those discussions open and honestly, and to be able to grieve and talk about those things and make decisions about what goes on with their body. Nobody talks necessarily about what happens with a white man's body. And if we do start talking about what happens to a white man's body, we get a bunch of white men that are real indignant about what happens there and get very angry. But when women in general, or men of color, or people that are of any kind of perhaps marginalized or minority community in any way, speak up about policies that affect their bodies, it becomes a very touchy subject and an issue. And, there should be policies that allow these things to happen. And I think we need to be real open and honest about why we're having those discussions, why you're angry about, being told what to do with your body, and why, you're angry that I don't want to be told what to do with my body.
Yeah, and you know what? This is just like the bottom line. If people understand that this is a basic human right, this is basically no man should ever decide. And if you look at who's deciding now, you will see all men, elderly white men, who are deciding what should and shouldn't we do with our bodies. And that's just part of it. That the same mentality, people are not considering there is rape victims. There's victims that who got pregnant because of reason that they can't even disclose. So just let us focus on providing a safe environment for women to decide and not shame them for making that decision. That's the start, and that will flow to other things. People feel that they can judge or make decision on people's behalf, minority. We've seen that with systemic racism, people deciding who never experienced systemic racism that systemic racism doesn't exist. Racial profiling doesn't exist. I mean, there's so many issues, and we can discuss all of that, during our discussion with your campaign and everything you're doing. Feel free to share any thoughts or ideas that will be helpful after you get elected. Let's get back to your campaign. I mean, you're big in healthcare, and as a nurse myself, I just want to thank you, and I wanted all the nurses out there to stop and listen, come and listen to what you have to say about healthcare. And that does not just affect the professionals in the healthcare, but it will affect our population, the elderly, the children, people who fall between the cracks. And the Obamacare saved their lives. They, just like the Biden's care is going to make the same, help to them. So what can we expect from Amanda?
So I think you can expect to see me fighting for healthcare in every aspect. One of the things that I talked about prior to the pandemic happening was, addressing surprise billing practices and the high costs of prescription medicines. It's impacted my family personally, and I can say that in sharing those stories, a lot of other people, shared with me that they had the same experiences. But it's about taking it even a step further. The pandemic happened and people began to lose their jobs, and then they lose their employer-sponsored healthcare with it. So now, there are a lot of people all over the country right now who are stuck making the decision of, do I go get needed healthcare and possibly go bankrupt over it, or do I avoid getting healthcare and continue putting food on the table? That is not okay. Those are decisions that none of us should ever have to make. You shouldn't go bankrupt for getting healthcare, needed healthcare, because healthcare is a right. Vice President, Biden said it last night during the debate. Healthcare is a right, and I fully and firmly believe in that. So I want to move to protect it. I think the first thing that we can do that's quick, easy, and I think everybody can get on board with, most everybody can get on board with, is really enshrining Affordable Care Act protections into Pennsylvania law. That way, no matter what happens in DC with the Supreme Court or anything else with the Affordable Care Act, here in Pennsylvania, you will still have pre-existing health conditions coverage. You will still have the essential health benefits. You can stay on your parents' health insurance through the age of 26. All of those pieces here in Pennsylvania would stay in place. That's what we need to do. That's quick, easy like that. I want to move to help create a public option so that if you're in crisis in your life or, whatever else it might be, maybe you just don't have a job that's offering great insurance. There's a public option that you can have access to health insurance, a quality health insurance that's affordable. But to even take that another step further, something else I've recently started talking about is I've been saying doctor deserts. I don't know if that's a real term or if I'm making that up here, but we know that in rural communities, a primary care physician or even a hospital may not be easily or readily accessible. We also have those same problems happening in urban areas in the cities and more urban areas or suburban areas where maybe it's communities with low income and doctors aren't as inclined to open up shop there. So what do we have? We have an urgent care facility where people are going for instant needs instead of going to a primary care physician that has all of their health history to be able to diagnose or determine perhaps there's something greater going on here because there's a history of something. So those are things that I really want to work on when I'm in Harrisburg. How do we incentivize, doctors to be in these types of areas, these doctor deserts, as I'm saying, or making sure that there's insurance to cover when people need to go see a physician and to be able to get that regular healthcare coverage. And it's insurance coverage that is affordable and accessible.
And that's not the case right now. And I think a lot of people don't understand that their decision, not just to vote for the president, but to vote for the local candidates, is going to determine what's going to happen. And especially after the passing of RBG, now we're going to have a bigger issue with the Supreme Court. We are looking at losing a lot of the rights that people fought for. Starting with Roe versus Wade, and we know she's going to do that if she get elected. So hopefully that will not happen. But in all cases, people here in Pennsylvania need to vote. Their vote matters. And even like Amanda said, even if we have that choice in the Supreme Court and we're going to lose a lot of, the health care that we have, at least here in Pennsylvania, we can keep our people covered, and their insurance is not going to go sky high just because of pre-existing condition. And let's just say the pandemic now, it is going to be a pre-existing condition. Yeah. So a lot of insurance is going to deny that, right?
Absolutely. That's such a great point to make. If we lose pre-existing healthcare coverage through the Affordable Care Act in DC, and we don't do something here in Pennsylvania, and you had the coronavirus, and we don't know what the long-term implications of this virus really are. Let's pretend that you end up, having a cyst that comes about from the virus. This is just pretend. This honestly has no scientific basis whatsoever. And you need to get that cyst removed for you to be able to breathe comfortably. And it's a direct result of the virus. And there's no pre-existing healthcare coverage. Then there's no guarantee that your insurance will cover that surgery to do that, leaving you in the scenario you could be uncomfortable for the rest of your life with this issue, or you have to pay out of pocket to have that happen. And neither option is something that many people can really afford to do. So like I said, that's a make-believe kind of scenario, but you will find yourself 10 years down the road if there's something that comes back because of this virus and happens to your body. If we don't have guaranteed pre-existing condition healthcare coverage, you're going to have to pay out of pocket or deal with whatever it is that's happening to you.
Yeah. And what we want you all out there who are listening to us right now, or going to listen later, check the facts, please. Like, go and search and research. Don't take any misinformed. And if you watched yesterday's debate, oh my God, I can't even begin to say what was going on, and then the tremendous amount of lies, misinformed. Like we are going to be in the dark, and that's not okay. This is, we are the leader in the world. We're supposed to be one of the top first world country, and we are acting. I can't even begin to give a number on the way we're acting right now.
It's amazing. Honestly, we are, we claim to be, the best country in the world and all of these great things. But then when you look at different metrics, when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to education, when it comes to the environment, I mean, there's any number of things. We really don't rank very highly amongst the rest of the world, which is quite sad. And I think that, this year with the election, we have a chance to finally start making that change. And it does start with, let's make that change at the local level, and let's improve Pennsylvania's standards and make sure that we're voting for good people who are going to go to Harrisburg to be able to work across the aisle, but also for the people. I think that that's kind of this really important piece that we're missing. You can say that you're a moderate or that you work bipartisanly, but if you're not passing legislation that actually supports and uplifts people, then what are you doing? Yeah. You're lining corporate pockets, you're lining your own pocket. I mean, I don't know that any number of things. I'm sure we could all research it and find out what's happening with any number of the legislators up there right now that are in leadership, that are running Harrisburg and making decisions in the majority party. But that's we need to hold them accountable, and that's why it's so important. You said your vote matters. Your vote is your voice, and your voice matters. Like, you matter. Your voice matters. Please vote and make sure. I'm going to put out there Representative Jen O'Mara. She represents parts of Delaware County, and partly overlaps with my senatorial district. She's in the House of Representatives. She ran 2 years ago for her first time, and she won by 500 votes. So, like, your voice and your vote really do matter and can make a difference. Just 500, that's it. And she is an amazing state representative who is out there really working hard for her people and supporting those in her district, regardless of what party they're on, because that's what you're supposed to do. And so I encourage you guys, if you want to see a change, like, vote for the people who are going to make that change. And sometimes that means that you need to vote out whomever's in there, because there are a lot of people who have been in their positions both in Harrisburg and in DC for a very long time, and we're in some of the mess we're in because of people who have been there for far too long and have stopped serving the people and started serving themselves.
And that's the time for change. If give someone a chance, and I say that all the time, you have the opportunity every 4 years to change your president, and you have 2 and 4 and 6 years in some other offices. Use that. If that person is not doing what they're supposed to do, vote them out. And everything that Trump currently is promising to do, he had 4 years and he didn't do it. So what make you think that 4 more years will do? And that will be the same for all the state representatives that are the candidates are running for the state Senate or the House. If you have a representative that is not doing what they're supposed to do, vote them out. Use your voice, like Amanda said. And to get back to the healthcare and your next topic is education. They all tie it up. And like you said, we are behind many countries. If you look at our neighbors here in Canada, their healthcare system is an example. It's working, it's helping. Why can't we do that? And then when you look again at the education, I know that there are so many countries that offer free education all the way to college, not just, just until high school. And their education system is amazing. And those are the things that we need to look into. Your next issue or priority that you discuss is education, and you cannot discuss one without, they're all tied up, education and the environment. So what is your proposal for education?
Simply, the state needs to put more money into our public education system. We're depending on the statistic you look at, we're anywhere from 44 to 47th in the nation for the amount of money Harrisburg, our state government, puts into our public education system. So we have been left with a system that is inequitable and creates a scenario where we are relying far too heavily on local property taxes to be able to fill in that gap. So then you find communities that have higher incomes do not have the same struggles as communities that have lower incomes. I personally live in the Norristown School District. It is a school district that is completely underfunded in a way that is similar to the Philadelphia School District and a couple of other school districts in our state. And we talk about this fair funding formula, and that's all well and good, but only a small percentage of that money goes through the fair funding formula. So we're not really getting, our fair share necessarily. What we need to do is just really infuse more money into our public education system and to ensure that our schools are able to address building issues. I mean, think about what's happening in Philadelphia school districts. The Philadelphia school district has buildings that are that are grappling with getting rid of asbestos. That means that there are children and teachers that have been going to these schools for ages that have asbestos in them. So we need to make sure schools have the funding to be able to address that, to ensure that they have the infrastructure that they need for electronics and for Wi-Fi, and for children to be able to use new technology. And new books, and make sure children have access to new books, and it's not old books that people have to share. And we also have to make sure that we are fairly paying our teachers. In a lot of different places, teachers don't, in Pennsylvania, that the starting salary for teachers is real minimum. Like it's poverty level type payment. And considering the importance, I know I can tell you, I can name a teacher, at least one teacher from every level of schooling that I've been in, that had an impact on me and has helped me get to this point in my life, whether I knew this is where I was going or not.
Mhm.
And I'll actually kind of give this fun little shout out. She probably won't even realize this. Mrs. Fenley, my 5th grade teacher, I actually saw her at our county party endorsement ceremony way back in January, when we could still be around people at that time. So seeing her there, and her and I recognizing each other and being able to reconnect, and I just remember loving her class and really enjoying being there. So I've got that connection to teachers, and I want our teachers to be, fairly paid for what they're doing, so that they don't have to go out, and make sure that they have the resources that they need, so they don't have to go out and buy crayons, and they don't have to go out and buy paper or books or, tissue boxes, all those different pieces. I know so many teachers in public schools who continue to buy those things for their classrooms because their school just doesn't have the funding for it. And I want to do it in a way that we ensure that we are not taking from one community to give to another community as well. So when we're talking about our fair funding formula, if we put all of our money through that as is, just at the amount that we're funding now, you will find that there are schools that will be severely harmed, both out in the Pittsburgh area as well as within my own district. They would lose a lot of funding, and I don't want to do that either. So in order to bypass that, we need to put not just all of our money through the fair funding formula, but then increase the amount of money that goes into the fair funding formula, and we're investing into education. And that will ensure that all of our schools are getting an adequate amount of money from the state to be able to provide the education. And the other pieces that many people don't know is this efficient education. I forget the exact phrase, but in our state constitution, it is a constitutional right here in Pennsylvania to a fair and efficient quality public education. And we are not providing that. You simply need to go to the Philadelphia public school systems, or here in Norristown, or, there are others that we know have problems with funding. So we need to do our constitutional duty and provide for that as a state legislature.
And we cannot expect people to advance in life and be productive if we cannot provide equal education, if we cannot provide housing, if we cannot provide healthcare, if we don't take care of our future generation or our kids or elderly, what are we expecting in return? We cannot expect people to be valuable and helpful to the society. And you mentioned the asbestos. That's as an issue, and I hear there is a similar issue here in Harrisburg School a while ago. But this is issue that is not just going to affect the kids now, but it will affect them in the future. That is going to be one of those issues we talked about earlier, pre-existing conditions, or issues that the insurance are not going to cover at some point. But there is a lot of issues in the environment itself. And I know that one of your other priorities, the environment, there is a lot of issues that we discussed, the coal mining, and how people are so defensive, not trying to understand the health risk that they are facing right now. And especially in Pennsylvania, we have opportunity for a cleaner energy. We have opportunity for bringing jobs and keeping people safe and using the resources that we have. What are you proposing when it comes to the environment?
So as somebody with a public health degree and a public health background, what really drives a lot of what I'm thinking about, so when we're talking about healthcare, we're talking about schools, and we're talking about the environment, I think about social determinants of health, which include what kind of a quality education can you have? Do you have access to doctors, health insurance, etc.? What does your environment look like outside your door? Is it safe for you to walk down the street to the park? Is your park safe? Is the air out there clean? Is the water in your home potable, drinkable? What about the paint in your home? Do you rent a home, and has that home been remediated for lead paint? All of these different pieces all mix in together. And then when we start to talk specifically about the environment, we're talking about some of those things that I talked about. Is it safe outside your door? Is it safe outside your door because you have clean air? Is it safe outside your door because of trash that might be out there, amongst other issues that happen? And I'm somebody who loves the outdoors. My husband and we go out all of the time, whether it's hiking or biking in the summertime to snowboarding in the wintertime. I honestly stand there and I go, when I'm looking out at the beauty that we have, and I just think, this is something I want my niece to be able to continue and enjoy. She's 15 years old right now, and I want her to be able to grow up to be my age and doing the same things I'm doing and enjoying the outdoors as I know she does. So we need to fix that. We need to address that. We need to address climate change because it's a very real problem that's impacting us. And everything is so intertwined. When we're talking about climate change, we're seeing heavier rains more often in our area. We're also seeing a little bit of temperature change and not necessarily getting as cold in the winter or getting as much snow. But when we get too much precipitation, too much moisture, we don't have the infrastructure to be able to handle all of the runoff that happens from that. And we have to invest in updating that infrastructure, because there are communities that are right along the Schuylkill River Trail down here in Philadelphia that it'll overflow, and it'll go, it'll have sewer systems overflowing into the Schuylkill River, which damages the habitat and the ecosystem there. And it hurts our ability to be able to continue using the trail and enjoying, the life that's there, that we have there. But then it's also a problem for that community because they face fines from the Department of Environmental Protection. So as they should, that's what that's there for. But they're not getting the resources that they need to fix the problem. And it's kind of this cyclical issue that we have. And it's happening over and over and more often because of climate change. And then, we have the pipeline issue here in Pennsylvania. I know people keep talking an awful lot about where Pennsylvania stands on fracking. But I'm here to tell you, almost all of the Pennsylvanians I know are not here for fracking. We don't necessarily see that as our future or a continued future. We need to stop our reliance on the oil and gas industry. And one way to do that is to put an excise tax on the existing wells that we have, put a moratorium on any new wells, and take the revenue from that excise tax and invest it into creating a greener, clean energy environment here. And that includes job training and making sure that the development that happens there is inclusive of labor unions and people who are affected by the shift from the oil and gas industry into this new energy economy, and ensuring that they have jobs, which is essentially what the Green New Deal is being inclusive of the people who are affected by this transition, to make sure that they can continue to have a life that is productive and healthy, and that they're a part of figuring out what that transition looks like.
And we have the chance here in Pennsylvania. I mean, we have the ability of using the natural resources we have, and we are an amazing state. But we just have to figure a way to make people understand that this will be better for them. And like you said, so many people are not with the fracking, continuing with that. Many people are still not sure, because change is scary. and uncertain, like when you
Mhm.
don't understand what is going to happen to you and your jobs. And that's why we're having those conversations. That's why we want you to get in touch with Amanda, contact her campaign, call her, email, they respond, and ask those questions, ask what that can do for you. And there are so many other amazing candidates also. You can reach out to them, reach out to your current candidates who are running, talk to them and see what is their plan, and look at the one you have currently. If they didn't do anything to protect you, protect the environment, it's time for a change. And you can't do that by voting your party. You have to vote people over party, and you have to decide what will work for you. And earlier you mentioned that our teacher, and that's a very sensitive topic to me personally
Mhm.
also, because I have not just family and friend, but I was helping with the school district, and the amount of teachers that have a second job just to be able to pay their bills or their mortgages, it is crazy. And those are the one we're asking them to raise our future generation. We can even provide them with pay, enough pay to cover. And you talked about equal pay,
Mhm.
as a priority also. And I'm sure it's not just towards teachers, but
Mhm.
in general. But can you address
Yeah.
what is your plan? What are you going to do to ensure that, and especially here in Pennsylvania?
So we need to pass legislation, plain and simple, that supports equal pay. And what does
Mhm,
that mean? That means that we know that women makes about 78 cents to the dollar as a man. A white woman makes that to a man. A black woman, I believe it's in the 60s or 50 cents, and Latinx women, the numbers go down depending on which group you identify
mhm,
with. And that's not okay. We are not valuing our people the way that we should. We have so many amazing people and so many amazing different cultures here in Pennsylvania for many reasons. And we need to make sure that when we're hiring them for jobs, we're paying them at an equitable level, and that
mhm,
they are feeling valued for their worth, and that they don't have to work a second or third job to pay the bills. So I think that's a combination of things that's happening there. I'm talking about both equal pay and making sure that if this person, this white man gets hired at $55,000 a year, and I have the same resume, I should get hired at that same amount.
mhm,
Or you should get hired. Like, it shouldn't matter. Your skin color shouldn't matter. Your gender identity shouldn't matter. All of those things. And we really need to pass legislation which reinforces that and helps to ensure that there's an equity level that's happening there, because we know that there is a pay gap, and that both women and then women of color are all paid at different rates less than a white man. That's
And
the
these are
important.
facts. I know a lot of people you don't have to face the issue in order for you to learn about it, understand it, and try to help. You don't have to be a minority woman. You don't have to be a woman to relate to the issues that we're discussing here, but learn the facts. Know that this is not something we just came up with. This is what we are facing as women of color, and that's something need to change. And you talked about equal pay, and you talked about women and minority. That will bring us to the equal respect, because you don't have no respect for gender. You have no respect for our sexual preferences. I know a lot of people are
Mhm.
attacking so many of the candidates just because of their identities. And
Mhm.
you heard Rachel Levine, our health secretary, and she faced a lot
Yeah.
of hate. That I know that exists, and I am not a naive person. I faced it myself, but the amount of
Mhm.
hate and ignorance and comments that we heard in the past 4 years, I don't think I ever heard it in my whole entire life. And I am not just a woman of color, an immigrant, someone with an accent. So I have triple, sextuple whammies going against me.
I cannot even begin to imagine. It's no secret I'm a white woman, so
Yeah.
I've only got a certain level or a certain layer in which I understand. But I have seen it, and I've talked about it with my friends of color, my friends who are immigrants. Any number of different levels of that, to hear and to see how all of that has interplayed in their lives is what drives me. To be honest, I want to be a state senator that is known for care and compassion and believing in the empathy and the need for equity for so many people that don't have it and have never received it. I think we've seen, in specifically through this pandemic and what's happened, I think that the way this pandemic happened and the timeline that happened with, unfortunately, George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and many other Black individuals that have faced some violence, either being injured or losing their lives. Being home the way we have, it's been significantly, I think, more in our faces and forcing us to reckon with it more. And I want to be somebody, a state senator, somebody at the policy table that creates a space to bring the quote unquote experts, those with the lived experience, to the table, to be able to have their voice not only heard, but valued and taken into consideration, and helping to drive and write the policies that we need to actually get to the root issues here and address the problems that have systemically been hurting our society. And I think, as one young person said to me, I mean, our country was founded by slave owners. There's no denying that. So really figuring out, how do you get down to the root of that, and what do we do to fix and address that and create a society that does treat people with the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All men are created equal, and being able to do that. And I think that that's what I want to be known for. And I want to be able to be one of those people that lifts as you go and brings other people along and creates that space at the table for those other people to be able to use their voices too. And then use my own point of privilege to be able to speak out and support where I can, and make sure that I'm doing what I can to uplift those that need it.
And that's all we're asking. And I know you are not just going to do this, but more. I've been, like I said earlier, several times, I've been following you. And I know you are not just talking the talk, but you are going to walk, and you are going to do what you promised to do. Like I said, the sincerity is there, and you are going to make a huge difference. I want to give a shout out to Janelle, our candidate in the 199th district. She's an amazing candidate who we had last week, and she is listening to us right now, putting comments. And one in particular was my favorite with my interview with her. She said, labels belong on boxes and cans in your kitchen cupboard, not on people or human being. And that's, I love that. And I told her, I said, please write that and say it again. But Janelle, thank you for listening and commenting, and thank you for being there fighting. And Janelle is one of those fighters who, specifically this topic we're talking about, she can relate to. She is being harassed on her campaign and on her page from so many ignorant people who are not even reading or listening or trying to understand what she can bring to the table. They are just attacking because they don't like your choices. They don't like who you are. And that is not your personality. They just don't like your sexual identity or your religion or your color, like what Amanda said. So what we're trying to ask from you all is to be understanding. Learn, know what your friends, your family, your neighbors are going through. And you don't have to be us. You don't have to face racism. You don't have to be a woman. You don't have to be an LGBT. You don't have to be a transgender woman. You don't have to be all of those to be able to relate and help all you need to do is to have some empathy, to have some caring about the world, and to be just a human being, just being a normal human being who respect others and respect their choices. And Amanda, I truly want to thank you for standing up and for talking, and like you said, using your privileges. And that's what we want, people, all the white women and the men, use your privileges. You do have those, you have them, because if you are put in a situation and I'm put in the same situation, trust me, the outcome will be totally different just because of my skin color. We cannot simply think that an issue will go away because we don't want to talk about it. Ignoring it is not going to make it go away, but discussing it, even if it's too sensitive to you. Talk to your family member. I have a lot of friends that their grandparent and their parent are not even open to discussing human rights, let alone LGBT rights, let alone same-sex marriage. But talking to them consistently will allow them to hear other point of view and just respect. That's all we're asking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the really key piece here is, I had a conversation with somebody else that had to do with like pronouns and talking about gender identity. And I said, it's just a matter of respect. If I tell you my name is Bob, you'll call me Bob.
Yeah.
It's as simple as it's just a matter of respect. It doesn't harm you. It doesn't affect you. It's just a matter of your name is this. I use these pronouns. It might be a little difficult if it's somebody that uses a they, their, them, they, their pronouns. That's a newer thing to get used to, but practice. Try. You will make all the difference in the world to somebody just for trying. Making sure that you're trying to pronounce somebody's name properly. Like it's basic respect. Nobody's gonna, when you go somewhere to another country and you ask, somebody asks you what your name is and they've got a little bit of a funny time speaking English and maybe can't say your name quite right, but they're trying and you appreciate that they've tried to say it. Like it's that simple. It's a simple matter of respect. And I think that kind of gets lost in, well, my religious view says this, or my doctrine of whatever it is says that. And that's fine, but I don't think that there is one religion that wouldn't tell you to be respectful of somebody who's asking you to, this is my name, these are my pronouns, I'm a human being, like you should treat me nicely. That's all it is. And that really gets lost. That's really gotten lost over the last 4 years.
Yes, it did. And a lot of people even got lost. Yeah, they lost their religion and what it stands for.
Yeah.
When we talk about, I'm not a religious person, but when we talk to someone who believe in one religion or another, if they read their books, they just take a slight, whatever they like and whatever fit their agenda at that time and use it. And if you talk about pro-life, and if you talk about saving the fetus, you don't care about the kid, that fetus after they're born, because you don't care about if they're going to get health care, if they're going to get equal education opportunities, if they're going to get housing, or if they're going to be shot, killed just because of their color. But you are telling me that your religion doesn't care about all of those actions, only care about you deciding what they can do with their body, the woman, what they can do with their body.
I think
you talked about, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say, I think you're hitting on like another really interesting piece of all of this, talking about not providing the support needed to even get through a pregnancy properly. Like, let's call a spade here. The maternal mortality rate in the United States is another one of those issues where we fall to the bottom of countries when you start to rank countries and maternal mortality rate. And then you start to think about what the Black maternal mortality rate is in Pennsylvania specifically, and it is abysmal. Many Black women, I'm sure have serious risks when it comes to giving birth and the outcomes of that. And there are a number of reasons, and social determinants of health and systemic racism and a lot of other things play into that. But if we're pro-life and we want to see, that child succeed and that child be born and that child be given every opportunity to succeed, then we should be working to address those issues, right? We should be working to address the social determinants of health that are causing these issues, the systemic racism that's happening, the stereotyping of, and I learned this through training that I did with Planned Parenthood. I guess the hysterical Black woman, their pain's not that bad. Like she's just like that's a thing that happens. So by the time they recognize that, oh no, there is something serious happening here, how far along is it? And are we able to address what's seriously happening when they're giving birth and being able to support the mother in that way? And like there are so many levels to that. So if we want to say, be pro-life, I really do believe that being pro-choice is being pro-life, because we're attempting to provide the supports for a person to make their choices, and then also being able to support them in addressing issues like systemic racism in their own life. At least with Planned Parenthood, we really worked towards social and racial justice, and trying to help support those issues so that, women of color could find themselves in a scenario where they're taken seriously and they can birth in a healthy and safe way. So, being pro-life means, supporting those resources, supporting those programs, and really working to dismantle systemic racism.
And follow that life until they naturally die, not under someone's knee or a gun or anything. So if you advocate for something, make sure you follow through or stop it. That's all I can say. Yep. You talked about raising families, and you are supporting legislations that would ensure working parents are provided. And I know many of us, especially with this pandemic, and that will tie up to your opioid pandemic as well, not just the crisis, but a lot of parents are facing so many issues to just make it to work. I was a single mom. I raised 2 girls and I struggled. So I worked every day in my life. I never took a day off. I made sure, because I had to provide. But facing childcare, that was a huge nightmare for me. I had no help. I was making the bare minimum, but at the same time, I had to pay for childcare so I can go work the bare minimum to pay that childcare and some of my bills. So it's a crazy way to balance. And if we don't get a leg up, if we don't support those people who are working and trying to support themselves, we are failing them as a society. And what are you proposing? What your plan is going to do for working families and so on?
So I think there's a couple of things that you talk about in there, because you're talking about working every day. I'm imagining if you're working every day to be able to afford childcare, you're probably not working a very high paying job at that point in your life. And you probably
I was making $6.50, Amanda.
Then you also probably didn't have any paid time off or any sick leave. If you got sick, you just called off.
I work in a daycare.
Couldn't afford to get sick. Couldn't afford to take your child to the doctor if they got sick.
Had no insurance either.
There you go. So there's 2 things that to pull out of this. The first thing is, guaranteed paid sick leave or guaranteed paid time off. I prefer guaranteed paid time off in general, because we know that when workers of all levels have the ability to take time off, whether it is to go to the doctor, to care for themselves in whatever way they need to, or their family members, or it's a mental health, I need a vacation and take a day off. Like, we know that workers are more productive when they have the ability and the opportunity to do that. So like, we need that for your health, because to be able to go to the doctor or take your family to the doctor, take care of your family, whatever that is incredibly important. Your own mental health is incredibly important for you to be not just a productive member at your work, but to be a productive member of society, to take care of your family. And, it's just the morally right thing to do. I think that's one of the things that drives me, is kind of the sense of what's morally right.
Mhm.
And so allowing people to have the time and the space to do those things is the morally right thing to do. But then I can also make the economics argument that goes with it as well, and the health benefits argument and the public health kind of thing with that. So we're talking about guaranteed paid time off. We're talking about living wages, $15 an hour, minimum wage, living wage, and done so over time, an incremented period of time, so that small businesses can adjust and be able to keep up with the increased cost of keeping their employees, because that will happen, and they'll have to make some adjustments, and to give them that opportunity to do that is the way to do it. So there are those pieces of it. And, also to kind of tie into that and go back to like the maternity thing, paid parental leave in general, like both paternal and maternal, like parental leave. If you're going to be a parent in some way and you're preparing for it and you need time to adjust with your family, there needs to be paid time for that. Again, we also know that these things, the social science is there that shows us that these things provide more economic output eventually, as well as productive employees, healthier people, better public health, happier individuals. We will be better as a society if we provide those things, both either through government or through private business practices, however we can start to do that. The second piece that goes into this then is childcare, the childcare piece itself. Number one, we need to make sure that we have high quality, affordable childcare for everybody. High quality so that we have people, and there are many people who go to school for this and then make poverty level wages to then care for our children, as well as having lots of, school debt to go with it, student loan debt. Which is outrageous. And from 3 to 5 is when a child has the most gains in development, in brain development. So you want somebody that has the experience and the knowledge to be there and be able to support your child in their growth and the best way that they can grow. So that's kind of this piece that we're talking about, high quality, but it needs to be affordable. A working mother, single working mother, needs to be able to afford to send her children there. And in Pennsylvania, costs about 1 year of college to be able to send your child to a high quality childcare facility. It's equivalent to like 1 year at Penn State. It's dumbfounding, right? That's kind of that's where we're at. And we have some programs that are supposed to be out there to help us, but knowing how to get into those programs, getting into those programs, all of those different levels are, difficult, and there's red tape and you don't always know where to go. And if you don't have connections to the system anywhere, you end up with grandma down on the corner who's watching 7 kids, and that's actually not a legal place for them to be, her to have 7 kids not related to happening. So we need to start investing in, universal childcare, being able to create a level where all children have the ability to go regardless of parents' ability to pay. To make it affordable, whatever that looks like, universal pre-K and kindergarten, to ensure that our children, if families want to send their children to childcare or need to send them there, they have that ability and it's safe and it's healthy for them. So I know that these things, as we're talking about them, it's okay, well, we need to invest in this and we need to invest in that. It's going to take time. It is a peace thing that we need to rebuild our economy and start getting that going. And as we start seeing things build up, we can start to continue to invest in these things. And, part of that starts with the Green New Deal and bringing green and clean energy. And that reinvigorates a whole new economy sector here in Pennsylvania that we can build on to then be able to create and invest in these other pieces that I'm talking about.
And that's, a very rich area to talk about. And it's very important. You have so many amazing priorities that, I'm asking everyone watching us right now to go to Amanda's website. I have it listed here on the top of the video, and I'm going to list it at the bottom now, but it's amanda4pa.org. You can go read about Amanda's priority, read about Amanda herself, her education levels, what can she bring to the 17th district? What can she bring to the state here? And there is a lot that she can bring, but don't take my words for it. I mean, you heard it from her. Go do your own researches and vote. The most importantly, vote. Give her a chance to help us, help her, help us. And again, there is 2 for so many election years that is going to happen soon. And if she doesn't meet your standards, you can always vote her out. And that's the best part about democracy. You can always make that change if they don't held responsible for what they said they will do. Amanda, if you have to summarize everything about you, if someone just came in and wanted to know who's Amanda, what she stands for, if you can give us a good 10 minutes of everything that I need to know about Amanda. I know it's a small time and there is a lot of issue, but we do have the whole hours for everyone to go back and listen. But I want a good 10 minutes of who's Amanda, what she stands for, what is her campaign is about.
Amanda Cappelletti is a proud progressive who wants to help develop policies that support, people from the bottom up. I come from a politically diverse family. My dad is a registered Republican. My brother's a registered independent. And, we have political debates all of the time. And I know how to have those conversations, and I know how to work across the aisle. With me, you are going to get somebody who genuinely wants to help. I want to do whatever it is that I can do as a state legislator and as a person to help those, that need it, help people be able to become the best that they can be. I recognize that there's a lot of privilege in my life, from the color of my skin to the education that I've received, to know that I want to be able to use that privilege to support others and being able to achieve their goals and achieve a level of equity and safety and security in their lives. So that's who you get with me as a state senator, as a legislator, and as a human being. That's all I want to be able to do is figure out, where do I fit in to help people. And right now, I believe I fit in best in Harrisburg, making sure that we're fighting for good policies that raise the minimum wage, that provide the supports that people truly need, and really reinvest in our communities, because that's how Pennsylvania succeeds, when we invest in one another.
And that's the bottom line, everyone. We have to invest in one another. We have to vote. We have to exercise our right. How can we help you? How can our listeners? And you don't have to live in that district. You don't have to even be in Pennsylvania to help. But how can we help you, Amanda?
So you could go to my website, and there are links there to be able to sign up to help for, we're working with Back to Blue, the coordinated campaign here in Pennsylvania. It works with, the presidential campaign down to do phone banking and text messaging and do all kinds of outreach to voters both in our district and around the district. I will say, this seat has been held by a Democrat for many years, and we're hopeful that it'll continue to be held by a Democrat. And I think the best support that you could give me is to help some of those candidates that are working so hard to flip seats right now. The Janelle Crosley that you had last week, or Tara Shakespeare, Shanna Danielson. I could, give you so many names of amazing progressive women to go out and really be able to write postcards for, phone bank for. If you live in their area, maybe drop literature at people's doors in your area. And ultimately, the best thing you can do is vote. Make sure you have a plan to vote. When, where, how, whatever that looks like for you. If it's by mail, early and in person, or in person on November 3rd, make sure you vote, and you vote all the way down the ticket, and that you tap 3 or 4 of your friends, families, or neighbors to make sure that they have a plan, they know what they're doing, and they know to go all the way up and down the ticket. In fact, you should start at the bottom of the ticket so that you make sure you get your state representative and you save that last vote for the top of the ticket and making your choice, triumphant choice in whomever you want to be as president. So that would be my, ask of you in terms of support, how best to support me.
And I can't even begin to express how amazing you are as a human being and as a person. And we want this kind of people in our area. We want you to represent. I truly want you to represent me, my kids, and I'm sure everyone is listening to you now felt the same. Somehow relate to you and hear the sincerity in your voice and support you. You can go to her website. Like I said, you can go to the Facebook page. There is a donation button. There's 10 days left. I don't have the hours. I lost track, but I think it's 7 hours or 8 hours left, but 10 days left, guys, and you still can do something. You can donate. Any donation will help. You can volunteer, do the text messaging, the phone calls, and support Amanda. And like she said, support all the candidates. And we brought so amazing candidate here for you. They talk about their plans and what they can do. And we just need to give them a chance and give them help. Pennsylvania is an amazing state, and we need to make sure that we have good people that are going to represent us well and do what's best for us. Amanda, thank you so very much for giving us the time, and thank you for talking to us and our listeners. And I want to thank everyone for watching and staying with us and listening to you. And I want to thank you in advance for going into her website and helping, sharing, and letting people know her name and know all the candidates' name. If there is one time that we need all your help is now. The 10 days are crucial, and we are relying on you. Amanda, if there is any last word that you want to say to our listeners, go for it.
Thank you all so much for your time today. Go out and vote.
Yeah. I don't think there is anything else we can say more than that. Just go and vote, or vote by mail. If you requested your mailing ballot. And you can actually pick it from your election center, right?
Yes, if you go to your, you can go in. It's called early in-person voting. You go to your election center and you can request your mail-in ballot, fill it out there, and hand it right back in. And you don't have to worry about anything. It's all done.
There you have it. And I'm going to harass you all the way to November 3rd. And then you're going to have a break from my political shows. But until then, please go do your part, make your voice heard, and use that voice to vote. And vote the ones that are going to help you, help your district, help your state, and help the United States and everyone that we represent. Thank you, everyone, and I will see you on Monday.